Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and in today's video I'm going to be taking you through the newly buffed Blighted maps and giving you a few tips, tricks, and ways to maximize your profit when you're doing them. So today, obviously the new patch dropped and we got some significant changes to these maps. So I'm going to go through the patch notes real quick, but basically we've done a ton of testing and experimenting on stream, which is a complete blast, and we've found some very interesting things out. So let's get started. What did they change? So item number 1 on the agenda, they increased the amount of chests from each lane. So this was actually a massive change. They didn't just increase them a little bit, they increased them tons. It's around 2.5 to 3 times the amount of chests in all the maps. It's completely ridiculous. If you look down there and you see these rewards, it's a lot. Basically there's 20 lanes and each of them have like anywhere between 2 to 5 times the chests on them. Completely crazy, and it's going to basically add up to be around like about as much worth as like 12-13 actual normal Blight kind of level of maps. So if you're doing T16s, you're going to get about 6.8 on average. So basically it's completely crazy. You're going to get a ton of loot from these things. So that's change number 1. Change number 2, they added oils as rewards from the Blighted maps. So it's unfortunate that we didn't get Blighted maps from Blighted maps, but we got the oils, which is a big increase in the amount of potential money and min-maxing you can do here for these maps. So the last change here is that they did reduce the amount of monsters that spawn during the encounter. Now this is actually a pretty interesting one, and we will get to that later on in the min-maxing part of the video. But yeah, definitely an interesting change. All of them are, in my opinion, good changes because I haven't had any lag or performance issues really outside of a time when I was playing with a summoner and it was kind of like prime time after the patch had launched, and that was kind of like really crazy. But since then I haven't had any lag playing solo or with an Aurabot support. So definitely pretty good. It looks like whatever they changed worked. I've used minion towers, I've used the ice cage towers, I've used them all, and I haven't had any issues or crashed. So good stuff, no worries there. So just how big was this buff to chests? That is the question. So before we were getting around, 20 to 30 kind of chests in a Blighted map, maybe a few more, maybe a few less, depending on how you went. Now these days with the buff, I did 15 yellow maps to test how many I was getting in yellow maps. And on average, over those 15, I counted all the rewards, I got 72.8 chests on average. So that's a lot of chests. That is a ton of chests. And next up, I decided to go ahead and try out the red maps, T13 level, and count how many I got in the red maps. And I got 70.8 chests in the red maps. So what does this tell us? Basically this tells us that unlike normal traditional maps and the Blights there, the chest number is consistent across pretty much all the tiers. I haven't tested too many white maps to get a solid figure, but it also does again seem like the rewards in terms of quantity are similar. So very interesting. It means there's a lot more merit to doing yellow maps versus the kind of other league kind of mechanic here. You would never really consider doing the yellow Blights, but you would consider doing the yellow Blighted maps, which is pretty cool in my opinion. So next thing, oils. Do the new Blighted maps obey the oil rules that we found in previous videos? They do. For the most part, I got golden oils from 13 up, silver oils from 11 up, and then opalescent in any yellow tier. So that's all confirmed by me. I dropped all those things. However, there was one outlier here, and that was someone in my chat saying they got a golden oil in a T12 map. Now, I can't personally confirm this as I didn't have a screenshot of it showing or dropping or anything like that, but that is a bit of an anecdotal point there. If you guys are interested, maybe it's worth trying out T12s for golden oils, but yeah, I don't know too much about that. So let's get into the tests that I did. So first of all, I wanted to test the tiers loot. I wanted to see if I was going to get more rewards in red maps and what those rewards would be. So overall, I think that the rewards in red maps were pretty good, and over around 15 completed like successful maps, I got 3 silver oils and a gold oil. Now, I didn't know much then about the mechanic as I do now. I wasn't min-maxing to a very efficient level, and that actually does impact a lot of what I would have gotten. A lot of them were using clear oils. I did 15 kind of red maps as control using clear/amber oils to try and really get a feel for the base loot. And the loot was okay. Again, we got those oils, but I wasn't really juicing. Now, towards the end of my red map testing, I started testing out a few other oils. We tested black oils, we tested like pretty much all of them, the pack size oil, the lucky oils, and all that kind of stuff. Now, we were really considerably underwhelmed with these oils. Now, why were we underwhelmed? Because we couldn't really notice what was going on. We didn't really have any idea what these oils were doing. The pack size oil, we determined wasn't very useful because we kind of understood that it wouldn't affect the chests, and then we kind of confirmed that. So the pack size oil isn't so great, but it does have a little bit of merit, and that merit is that it can increase the loot explosion considerably. Now, why is this good? So normally it's not very good. The loot explosion can't drop like scarabs, oils, or anything like that. It can only drop map-specific loot. But that map-specific loot can be stuff like T16 maps based on your atlas, from what I understand. I haven't gotten any of them myself, but chat said they got those. And it can also be divination cards. For example, the Doctor, Saint's Treasure, all that kind of stuff. Again, I didn't get any insane divination cards from my runs, but I wasn't trying to go for those. If you're using violet oils on a ton of white BCs, it's possible you might drop a Doctor eventually. Now, there is one final point about why these quantity oils might be good, and that is the league-specific uniques. So, from all my hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of blights that I've done, I've never gotten a league-specific unique outside of a blighted map. Like, not even one. And I've done literally probably over 1,000 blights in maps right now. Like, that's a lot of blights, right? So it would have to have a 0.001% chance of dropping from blights in maps if that's the case. Now, in blighted maps is a different story. I've gotten multiple blighted uniques in blighted maps, which leads me to believe that blighted uniques only drop in blighted maps, which would make a lot of sense in my opinion. And what I can do to confirm this is say that I got the gloves, the boots, and the helmet while testing today. So that's pretty good evidence in my opinion that they drop here. Now, where do they drop? They drop specifically from the loot explosion, and that is affected by quantity and pack size. So if you're trying to go for a Spore Guard, which is a 3 or 4 exalt chest if I recall correctly right now, or if you're like an SSF boy trying to go for the helmet or the gloves or something you want, this is a pretty good way to try and farm them. Juicing up with the pack size oil, going for high quantity, you're going to be able to get a better chance at getting those uniques you want. Having said that though, I didn't get Spore Guard, so it didn't feel too great for me. So that's the quantity oil, and we decided it wasn't really worth it for the currency per hour kind of thing that we're going for. So on to the next store, additional rewards. So there's two types of additional reward oils. There's the black oil, which gives 10% chance for a chest to give an additional reward. Obviously you go 10 times 3, that's 30% chance, which is pretty good. And then obviously you have the golden oil, which is a very expensive oil, which you can anoint 3 times for 25% times 3. That's 75% for a chance at an extra item. Now, I personally didn't invest in any gold oils, but Cute Dog did. Of course, the man, the myth, the legend, he went for 3 golden oils on a T15 map. I took a look at the results and I was not too impressed. So he took a bit of a bullet there for the community, and it is quite clear that the golden oils probably will never ever be worth the money that they take to invest unless they change them significantly. So never like anoint your blighted map with the golden oil unless you're trying to meme it up. So with that out of the way, why is this good or bad, these additional drops? Let's go through why they could possibly ever be good or bad. So for the most part, what we determined that this is that it gives the chance to drop an additional item, one additional item. Now, we counted this, we did it on the uniques, we averaged it around 2, so we were looking for a third one. We took a look at the oils, we knew how many on average drop in terms of oils, we took a look at essences, we took a look at scarabs, all these kinds of things, and we couldn't notice any massive amounts. And what this basically means is that we didn't notice any chests having, for example, double loot. And why this is important is because one way to interpret extra loot is that it doubles the value of the chest. Like, so the chest just drops everything twice, right? That's how you could interpret it. But the other way, which is how I think it actually works, is that it actually just drops one extra item. Now, this is both good and bad for different types of chests. So, for example, on the scarab chest, this is actually quite good. You have a chance to double the amount of scarabs that you get from a chest, and if it procs multiple times, you're basically doubling the chest, straight up, like we were talking about before, effectively, because it only drops 1 scarab anyway. This is also true for other things, like potentially sack frag kind of chests and stuff like that, but the main one really is scarabs, and that's where it will really shine. Now, where this is really bad is the oil chests. Again, we don't have like empirical evidence that this is the way it exactly works, but this is just anecdotal on how we felt it works. as I was saying, on the oil chest, this is probably particularly bad because it could just be like a 60% chance or 30% chance to drop an extra clear oil, for example, which would be very bad. So in my opinion, given the price of black oils and golden oils, this is probably never worth using unless I'm missing something here, which is entirely possible, and that's up to you guys to figure out, because I personally don't think they're ever going to be worth it, at least based on my testing. Hopefully we'll see some different stuff on Reddit though, and then I can take that information and use it myself. Next up, we have the quantity. So obviously there's the pack size and quantity. This is very similar to the other one we used, for example. This is basically you just want to use it to get Spore Guard or some specific like uniques in the map. But at that point, I don't even know if that's worth it. You probably want to be going with the quantity over the pack size, because in terms of the actual pack size, it's not that much compared to the massive jump in quantity that is available there. So I'd probably go with the quantity personally. So yeah, that's the main ones, but then there's one last one here, which I always had a really tough time understanding, and that is lucky chests. So when we tested lucky chests, which is teal, crimson, and silver, we noticed basically nothing. We were looking for the chests, and we were looking for some sort of a lucky, like, indication that these chests were lucky. We were looking at it, the rewards, we were like, are we getting extra golden oils? No. Are we getting better scarabs? No, not really. Are we getting extra currency drops? Something like that? No, not really. We couldn't understand what was going on. And it wasn't until much later in the stream, like 5 or 6 hours in or something like that, someone actually suggested in chat that maybe, just maybe, the lucky chest didn't actually mean the loot itself, but the actual chest type. Now, this is actually a massive deal, because I then went on to test this in another like 20 maps, and I actually was pretty much able to confirm it, in my opinion. Now, it's entirely possible that I got a very lucky streak, something crazy is going on here, or I'm just kind of like, my brain is like thinking the results are not what they are, but I will tell you exactly what I found. So I ran 15 yellow maps, blighted with amber oils to test as a control, and I averaged around 15-ish bad rewards. So what are bad rewards? In my opinion, bad rewards are the standard chest icon, the armor icon, the weapon icon, and the jewelry icon. I consider those very bad rewards, so basically blanks. Now, I was averaging a lot of them, like 15 plus a lot of the time, and it was getting me really frustrated, and I was like, okay, fine, that's like whatever. And that's when we actually found out that this could be a potential like solution to that. So those 15 chests, I think my worst one was 17 bad rewards, and I'm not even kidding. You can go watch the stream. It was like 17 armor chests or something dumb, like 17 armor / weapon chests. And it's very noticeable how bad it was in yellow maps. And these are considered bad, like obviously significantly below par rewards, of course. Now, the story changes considerably from here. I started to do more teal oil maps. I did 15 teal oil maps, and I tracked the results by looking at how many bad rewards I was getting. And over 15 maps, I never went above 10 bad rewards. And most of the time, it was anywhere between 5, 6, 7 bad rewards versus like the 15-ish that I was getting before, which was completely insane. Now, you could say this is RNG, I'm misinterpreting the mechanic, or anything like that, but I'm not too sure that that's exactly what's going on. I think it actually does mean that the chest is lucky. So to completely explain what I mean by that, there's obviously a ton of different types of chests. Like you can see in the background here, we got Parandus ones, there's armor ones, there's weapon ones. Now, obviously the game needs to roll these and generate them somehow. So it has a way of generating these, and some of them are more common than others. So let me give you an example. In the 15 yellow maps I ran, I got the Scarab chest clusters once, right? And that was obviously a pretty rare one. Now, in my 15 with teal oils, I got it like 7 or 8 times, like a significant increase. And you guys will see in my actual loot report, like data, that it's a massive difference. I went from going like 4 Scarabs in 15 to like 20 in the other test. It's very crazy, and you can actually see in here I got like 2 stacks of Parandus chests, and there's like pretty much no bad rewards, right? There's only a few compared to the insane amounts before. So very, very important there. So when these things are being generated, I feel like they have a chance to either be one or the other. And the way Lucky works in Path of Exile is it'll actually roll it twice and give you the best result. So let's say it rolls an armor and a Parandus coin one. It'll give you the Parandus coin one. And in the case of Blighted maps, it doesn't seem to allocate rewards randomly. It allocates them to tendrils. So let's say you have 6 lucky chests. that's not 6 individual chests, that's 6 individual chest clusters. So it'll roll all those chests as lucky, not just one. So that's extremely powerful, and unlike other oils, scales with the newly introduced buffs. So it actually is very, very powerful. So if you're feeling a bit frustrated with the rewards in your maps, you feel like you're getting a lot of armor and jewelry and all that kind of stuff, try out some teal oils. Tell me what you guys think. If anyone gets over 10 bad results, please let me know in the comments. I'm actually extremely curious about this. But we ran extensive tests, obviously on my own, and with the people in my Twitch chat. They all started running teal oils, and they all noticed a massive difference, and also post screenshots. We took a look at them, and the results speak for themselves. It's completely ridiculous how much more loot you get. So with that out of the way, that is obviously a lot to consider. I didn't run those red maps with teal oils, and there's actually more tiers to obviously the lucky chest. You can make it go from 6 to 9 to 15. 15 is almost all of the chests being lucky, and you're going to be rolling all of those chests to try and get the best item like possible. Like let's say that the oil one's the best one, and you roll a uniques one, it'll give you the oil one. So you could end up with a considerable amount more loot in your map, almost like you could consider like double if you roll them lucky or better. So very crazy indeed, and I do have the results to back that up. In my next video, I'll be showing you the currency breakdown between those 15 teals and 15 standard, and I think you guys are going to be very interested in that. So with all that covered, you now know that the best oil, at least in my opinion, to run on your maps, and one that you absolutely should be running on every Blighted map you do in my opinion, is teal, crimson, or silver. Now, what's going to make this optimal? It's going to make it optimal if it justifies the price, and that's going to be a very difficult question to answer. Obviously each of the tiered maps cost a different amount. Like red maps cost like 100C for 15s, like 13s like 50C, yellows are like 30, so it's all over the place, and we're not going to really understand until we get some hard data on what actually drops and how much you can expect to make, similar to the 5-way videos that I did in Legion, and those are coming up, don't you worry about that. So we need that to determine how worth it is. But yeah. So moving on to a bit of a different story here, I want to talk about clearing these things really quickly because we're obviously going pretty deep into this video. So to begin with, I was having a lot of trouble clearing the high tier red maps with my Tornado Shot character. And the number one issue I was having was just a massive bloat of monsters in the map, constantly just running around, causing me lag-ish, kind of not too bad performance, but like it was definitely chunking the instance a little bit. And then I was also having an issue with bosses. I was actually able to solve both of these issues fairly easily. And the way I solved the bulk issue with the lots of monsters is actually by swapping out my Queen of the Forest, which wasn't too useful in Blighted maps, for an Impulsor. So the Impulsor's Broken Heart is an item which basically makes monsters explode for 5% of their HP. You can see it exploding in the background here. It's that blue explosion on the background. 5% of their HP around them, and you can scale this with talent points on the skill tree, gear, and all that kind of stuff. I'm not quite sure how it works. I haven't delved too much into that, but it does a lot of damage, especially in Blighted maps. It's ridiculous how much damage that they do to themselves from this. I'm not quite sure why it works the way it does, but basically if you use Impulsor, the whole lane you shoot and you kill one monster in will explode and chain all the way along. You can see it kind of in the background here, these massive kind of chunks of monsters just dying all at once. It's really incredibly insane, and it's going to boost your clear in the Blighted maps by a completely ridiculous level. So if you're having a lot of trouble with quantity of monsters, chuck on that Impulsor, and you're going to be good to go. Next up, I was having a really big issue with bosses, and I decided to actually start using the towers and come up with a strategy. And the strategy I decided to come up with was the following. I would use the earth towers with the temporal chains kind of aura in choke points, so basically wherever lanes converge or kind of start coming together, I'd put a temporal chains one. You can see in the background here, I'm doing that exactly. And then if I'm having a real issue with bosses on that map, I'd put down an ice cage turret so that it would CC the bosses for a short time. Now, onto the DPS, because you obviously will need a bit of damage to clear these bosses, especially in red tier maps, where they have more HP, it seems like, than Shaper. I was running with a fully geared up Necromancer in some of these maps, and he was even having trouble killing some of these unique monsters. So they have a lot of HP, so sometimes you're going to need to rely on towers. So in terms of the damage towers, which are the best ones? The best ones, in my opinion, are the fire towers and the ranged bat minion towers. These do a lot of damage, enough to mostly deal with a lot of the boss's HP, and you can see in the background here, one of the meteor towers going to town on that guy there. So very, very good indeed. Now, why am I mentioning 2 towers here instead of just 1? That's actually a very important point, which we need to go into. Sometimes the resistances line up pretty badly for one specific element. So the way the resistances work in this game is that you'll notice in these circles down here, there's obviously an icon which corresponds to a tower. Now in maps, for the most part, I've been completely ignoring this mechanic, but it actually does become kind of important when your gear isn't insanely slanted to damage in Blighted maps. And the reason for this is that when a monster has that icon, it's actually immune to all damage of that tower type. That's very relevant when you're stacking and relying on your damaging towers, because you're basically going to have a unique monster that's completely immune to most of your damaged towers. Very, very scary stuff. So basically what I do is when I see a number of bosses, which you can determine by this icon here, this little blight thing here, with the fire immunity, I'll build minion towers, and when I have a lot of ones with minion immunity, obviously I'll go for fire towers. And if neither of them are immune to anything, I'll build the fire towers by default, because that's what my ring enchants are on my glove, on my ring, sorry. And I'll just go with that because I think that that's the best DPS tower in my opinion. So that's my tower strategy. Temp chains in the chokes, ice walls when you need them for bosses, and then one of those DPS towers and you should be pretty good to go. You can also throw in the odd aura tower, but I didn't feel the need and hadn't had any issues with that at all anyway. So good stuff. Impulsor and a good tower setup should have you blazing through these maps. Make sure you stay near the pump at all times, because sometimes unique bosses can slip through and lead to some pretty unfortunate losses. So that's all I have for you in terms of tips and ways to min-max your loot. Go for those teal and crimson oils. Make sure that you're clearing out the map and paying attention to everything. Maybe strap on an impulsor and build those towers. The next video, which should be pretty soon, either today or tomorrow, will be 15 yellow blighted maps rolled with amber oils versus 15 teal maps. Full on loot breakdown, profit, loss, all that good stuff that you know and love, and we'll know exactly how much you can make from these things, how much you should be paying, and how much you can expect to profit. So look forward to that, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, cheers.